To invite the team because we're going to talk the next topic. So let me just, John, if you can announce the team to step forward.
Yep, so we're going to invite on stage. We have EON, Vinh, and Farid. EON Kjallstrom is the EVP Product Development Team at EON Reality. Vinh works for EON's team. And Farid Ismail, EON Product Development at EON Reality. We're going to have an Ask Me Anything session.
Okay, so now the fun part starts. It's Friday afternoon, so you can actually relax, and I hope this is a productive session. And I'll try to minimize my part of the talk and hand it over to the team, most of us. But the point now is to ask any questions you may have. So I would like to kick off, just to get going. And this is a question for everybody. Of the products you guys demonstrated yesterday, in your humble opinion, which of them is the most, I would say, important in the short term? I'm not talking about long term, and will impact the value for our users. Jan.
Okay, so I would say that a combination of all, but if I choose two, I think the persistent EON Illuminate as well as EON Interact. Yeah, Vinh.
And why is that?
Well, I think that's what I mentioned yesterday with the EON Illuminate is that it's like a paradigm shift where you can put things, place it anywhere in the world, and it stays there, and you can share your knowledge with other people. And Interact is a way to make the application a little bit more interesting and add more interactions in an easy way without being to have programming knowledge. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, so I agree with John. As you know, we have started with this knowledge injection, right, on the Metaverse Builder. So now we're taking the next step to inject behaviors and dynamics behaviors into the objects to make them come alive. So that's like, I think this is very exciting next chapter for our products.
Yeah, I agree. So basically, instead of having a metaverse that's fairly static, to use your creativity to bring it to life.
Yes.
Okay.
May I ask one more thing? So, also the simplification of the process when you create things. That is something that Dan shows early in his presentation yesterday. I mean, it's already easy, but we want to make it easier, and together with AI will be basically create content instantly without you doing any effort at all.
No, I agree with that. Just to give you an example, so I get to meet a lot of ministers, and they are often quite smart, and I prepare a demo. Often I like to show the engine. And it happens to me more often than not that they say, okay, I see your engine, but I want to show me a bumblebee, or show me the particle accelerator in CERN. And they expect me to fail. And what happens is that 9 of 10, if it's something odd, like a bumblebee or the particle accelerator in CERN, I may not have the lesson, but I have the asset. But because we can do, when I pick the asset, AI creates the whole experience on the fly, and they don't know it, their conclusion is that I have the lesson. Because they see the video, they see the asset, they see the text, they see the explanation, the avatar is describing what it is, and they think, oh, you had it. And then, of course, I have to recognize, no, I didn't. It was just created on the fly. And so that, I think, is extremely important because we live in a time of limited, short attention span, and we are so used that things happen on demand. So I agree with you. Let's.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I guess that's what Jon was saying. Every one of them are quite good. But I suppose I would select, of course, Interact. And the other one I felt that was quite good that we had was the Universal. Right? So because finally we had Universal before, but only for Oculus Quest, and now it covers Quest, Vive, anything that supports OpenXR. So I think it goes really across all the devices. I think that's very exciting. Yeah.
Wonderful. And this opens the door for the next device, which we're all waiting for, which is Apple's device. And some of us hope. Do you guys remember how it was before the iPhone? We all used Blackberries and Nokia.
Windows Mobile.
Exactly. And then things changed. I believe that it's not going to happen the same way this time because the device that comes out is a bit too expensive. So it's going to be not that dramatic, but I think in the next 24, 48 months, I would say 24 more likely, we will migrate to the next computing platform. And the next computing platform is contextual. And having the benefit at that time to have 10 million assets, have lessons, and just have these classes all the time, that will be, I think, the big one. My personal favorite is the new UX because I want to go to a website that's like a newspaper. Every morning I have the news, new things, new creation, and I can see how much money I made overnight while I slept on my models. That drives the usage. That I think will be something. So it's not just a library of knowledge. I think most important in life is purpose. That we have a purpose, why we go up in the morning, what we do. And this incentivizes people to create and collect and make money and have new friends, etc. Okay, there's a question. I know that a lot. Oh, there you go, sorry.
I get it. So, very quick question. Come on, I'm just taking over your place. Just take over. Thank you. So, my question is going to be, when I'm reading the back of your book, it's basically saying the technology is moving towards metaverse and every company wants to make a name for themselves, but you have been working on this for 20 years. Like, my question is, how? Why? How did it dawn on you? And how did you get to this point? What was your driving force? And how would you define it in your own words? It's not something like, theoretical or historical or whatever, but it is like how, why, how did you decide on it? Was there a metaphor in it? What was it?
I guess we were, to be honest, wrong. If I knew what I know now, I would go for vacation for the first 20 years and come back 5 years ago. I mean, the theory that we all had, you see, you don't talk with guys that are 20-something, right? We're a little bit older than that. But it reminds me of my friends in artificial intelligence. I was at a barbecue with my friends, AI friends, about 10 years ago, and they were almost ashamed to recognize that they work with artificial intelligence because the common knowledge was artificial intelligence doesn't work and it's a waste of time and you must be stupid to spend your career in artificial intelligence. It was the so-called artificial intelligence winter, right? And I would say virtual reality went through the same winter I think we had 7 extinction events. So the road to virtual reality where we are now is paved with cadavers along the way. So we had an extinction event 2001, 2004, 2008, where millions were poured into this technology and nothing happened and the company went bankrupt. The last one we had was 2017, 18, when 90% of virtual reality companies went bankrupt. And to one word, why, and then what drove us, other than just survival. I think the main reason why is that for technology to become real, you need to have the right hardware, and that was not available. This hardware, which is amazing, was only available to 2014, okay? With precise, and that's when Oculus was purchased by Facebook. The other one is that the big boys, in this case, Apple, all this Microsoft, the titans of the industry need to agree, Facebook, that this is the big thing. It doesn't help that a company like us, we are less than $1 billion, we are like little mouse compared with the big giants, right? And the good news is that they've decided this is the next territory, and there is right now $1 trillion war between Microsoft, Apple, Google, and Meta, or who will own the next computing platform. And they all look like companies like us, like this beautiful young girl that they want to date because they need the content and the application in this area. So now to answer your question, what drove us? I mean, passion. I would say, if I'm looking at Jan, I mean, I don't know how many nights we spent dreaming about what's going to happen and when this is coming, and Vinh and Farid. We are really passionate about this, right? It's, we are now like kids in a candy store when everything happens now, and it happens faster and even more than we ever dreamt about. So that was one. And the other one, you know, to run a business and pay salaries and not go out of business, you need to be pragmatic. So we always focused on value. And when we started the company, the value was in defense and I would say aerospace, where people can afford to pay, I think a simulator was $10 million. And as the technology became cheaper, nuclear power plants or Aramco that could pay 1.4 million. And then as the technology became cheaper and faster, we were able to do more. So what I heard today among my Turkish friends, new friends, there's about, I think I talked with 8 universities. Most of them have a VR center. Our company has sold 2,600 caves, if you know cave technology, and probably a couple of hundred VR centers. And we made a living on that for many, many years. But we also retired our last cave and gave it to a museum 2 years ago because that technology is out. And what I'm encouraging my friends here is that let's move to the next step, because now hardware is plentiful. There's 5.4 billion of these and headsets. So I don't know. That's, I guess, my answer on that one. Anyone wants to add something? No? Okay. It's time for questions, guys. More questions.
I have actually a question, if that's possible.
Yep.
I'll try to speak loud so you guys will be
Yeah,
able to.
we hear you.
So from the perspective, and I'm saying that also as a EON-XR user, but from the perspective, the expectation is also to manage the new devices that are coming up, the new systems. So in the same time, of course, focusing on the mobile, which has become very successful, but also the new devices. How does the process of adaptation for devices like Oculus Quest 3, Oculus Quest Pro looking like from the perspective of a development team? And the thing is, our partners, how they can be part of that process, that's a kind of part of the question to make sure that the needs, the current needs of the equipment are fulfilled within the platform.
Okay, I can start. Yeah, it's a very interesting question. So we started, as you know, with AR, and then that's like our main focus, and for a very long time. And what we do is that we use that as a test bed to kind of testing new interaction models and how all these inventions that we do for the assessment portal and knowledge portal. There are lots of iterations before we reach what we have today. And what's good about that is that we already tested this in the AR mode, and then we just flip the switch, and then now we have the universal, and we can apply the same interactions model to that. There are a few adjustments we need to make, but generally it's you have a much wider field of view, so that's something we need to account for because the mobile is smaller. So yeah, small adjustments, but because we're sharing the same code, so it's like very easy to kind of move to that, very fast to move to that model.
Can I ask a question there for you? So between AR, augmented reality, I know there's a debate, I heard it in the coffee break, between is augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, what will dominate in 3 to 5 years?
Well, I think definitely it's AR that would dominate, and it comes back to EON Illuminate again, when you kind of, it's a mix of the real world and the virtual world, and you can, I mean, there's, of course, you will be able to, sometimes you want to kind of cut off the real world, but you have much more use of it when it's in augmented, and also to add the comments to Vinh there, so now we have support for 4 different headsets, but we use EON-XR and Unity, so it's like as soon as it comes out new devices, so we can very easily do that very quickly. I think that's what SmartSyn was asking also. And one of the things that we will work on, you've seen the spatial meetings, and normally it's between mobile user, but we will be working on, so you will have a meeting, doesn't matter if you're on a mobile phone or on any device, so we're kind of connecting everything. So I think it's very exciting times.
Can you explain to me, Jan, because I've seen the new, how many have seen the new device from Oculus, the Pro, the one that costs $1,499? There's one. And for you that haven't seen it, what it is, it's both augmented realities. I can see you guys. I'm not insulated, but I can also superimpose information, and I can go from AR to VR. So how do you see the future devices?
Well, I haven't tested it yet, but I mean, the regular Quest, if you tested it, it's like when you're going outside your area that you set up, you will see it. It's a black and white, low res, but now with the more high res and stereoscopic and color, you can probably use it more as a augmented reality device. But if you compare, for example, HoloLens and Magicleap, if you know what that is, that it's you actually see through and then overlay. But with Quest, you will actually have a video feed, so it's a little bit different there. But it's then it will enable you to have much larger field of view. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to how this develops.
Definitely.
Yeah, I can add to that. So since we have this video feed from the reality, what you can do is also you can add distortions and other things superimposed into the image of feedback. So you can, for example, create earthquake or some vibrations that you don't really can do in real life. So that's like a Hollywood FX you can do also with that kind of things when you have this mixed reality approach.
So our partner for Egypt raised a hand there that you've seen it. So the way I'm thinking it, to put it in layman's term, that you and I sit around the table in a coffee shop in Cairo, and you share with me the latest scan of the Tutankhamun's golden mask, and we have both these glasses, and we see that, and while we enjoy our coffee, and we can see the traffic and see that no pocket thieves or whatever is taking our bags. Because if we are in Oculus, we can do that. We are totally lost. We cannot even find our mouth, right? So that would be odd. And then you tell me that, but you don't know the context of it. So then you push a button and suddenly we see the whole, the grave where the sarcophagus is laid. So this area is the sarcophagus and there's the mask, but I can still see you and still see what's going on. And then I say, how about the context of it, the Valley of the Kings? So So then suddenly you push another button, and then we totally are surrounded. So that opaque, basically like a slider, where I go from full, just AR to mixed to full immersive, will be where the future is. So virtual reality as an insulated will be, not necessary anymore, right? That's what I think it's going. Because you need those three levels. You need to be able to see other people, real people, not just virtual. And my other idea, or our idea, is that metaverse is not something you do in a basement. Metaverse is something that will be part of your daily life. In fact, in 5 to 10 years, we'll not distinguish between friends that are here, I can touch him, and friends that are not there. There will be whole mixed environment. So our reality, the synthetic reality and the physical reality will be indistinguishable in our brains. Although, of course, you cannot. So I think, and that's where the Facebook, we all read that Meta has problems, right? And they are criticized over their strategy. And I don't envy Zuckerberg, because we have a simple problem to solve, to show an engine, to show something practical, right? His challenge is to have a discussion with grandmother and to see her perspiration on the upper lip, her rosy cheeks, small, because to have the social connection, you have to have that level, right? And that's not going to happen for 5 years. So the question is, does he have enough cash between now and 5 years to jump to that? I'm not sure. That's another little detail. Okay, more questions? Yes, please.
When we can have like an avatar to explain for new users how to use EON in development or create lessons.
That's a good one. Great, good minds think the same. We already done it, but in a basic way. Basically, you have the avatar, and he points to the screen. In the screen, there's a question mark normally, and you can point to different things. But I think what you're asking is a lot more complex than that, so I'll hand it over to the smart guys here. Anyone?
Yeah.
The question is, when can we have an avatar that explains how the software works? No. I mean,
I think generally this is the idea of learning something. There's many ways of learning. I think like what you saw Dan showed, where using AI, where with the proper models, it's actually able to understand. And in some ways, is really listening to the users using it. Right. So I could say that, okay, how do I make a digital twin? Right. So the keywords is, to understand what the person says, recognize, okay, digital twin, and then from there to kind of search in our indexes of such keywords, digital twin, return that results, and then it's a matter of giving the user a choice, because there's many ways of learning. You might say that, no, I like to read, I don't like to have something that points to me, or I like to see a video of showing it, or maybe I want the avatar to then show by actions, right? So to give a user a choice of how they want to be taught on such a function, and let it run.
yeah,
So I think that's how you.
I will answer the question like this, if you don't mind, because this is a passion of mine. So in America, we have a term called show and tell. I don't know if you heard that. And in humans, as humans, the best way to teach someone something, I used to be in the military, and the guys first tell me what they're going to do, then they did it, and then they tell me what they've done, and then I actually have to do it in between, right? So we humans like to have a multimodal way. So in this particular case, the avatar pops up, and we done it as a beta, and says to you, Mr. Fatih, what would you like to learn about? Yeah, explain to me how the EON software works. So what happens is, in the screen in the tablet or phone, all the symbols, all the buttons appear, and he points to one from the other side. So you look at him, and you see your screen like this, and these buttons pop up, and you say, this button, and he points to that, does this, and this button does that. So that's the short-term solution. The long-term solution is no buttons. No more buttons. But I think we went, for example, in our, we went from 8 buttons to 4 buttons. And now from 4 buttons, we are cutting and cutting and cutting, right? Because the ultimate solution, you shouldn't need to have any buttons. Okay. More questions? I'm very happy to see that everybody got coffee and a little bit of cookie or something. Final remarks? Okay. So I would like to have final remarks because I talk too much from the guys that actually did the whole job, not me.
Yeah. Let me, is it on? Yes, so I think we're living in a very excited time because the technology is like advancing so fast, and I'm looking forward for the next phase of this because they're working on this hardware, right? To the Quest that we have now is very, you know, the lens is very far out, so that's the magic there. The lens, they need to shorten it and make it very, so it's become the same as the sunglasses, for example. When we have reached that level, I think that's gonna be when Apple maybe come in and do this kind of, you know, non-intrusive, very, you know, everyone can use it. I think that's kind of like the major milestone, I think.
Yeah, I think it's such an exciting time to we are in right now. So we started with this 20 years ago, and I thought this would take a lot quicker than that, but now we're here, and I say that we're like in a hockey stick when it comes to the development. It's like a little bit like the AI. A lot of things didn't happen or appearing not to happen a lot, but now so many things are happening at the same time. And when you come, especially when the AI, and I'm looking forward for the next, when we have the next Experience Fest, maybe in like 6 months, then we hopefully have a little bit of AI, and I think that will make the whole experience much more interesting and fun. And yeah, it's very exciting, and I'm looking forward to the future.
I think my point might be a bit different. I think we are reaching to a point where traditionally where you would pay developers maybe hundreds of thousands to build your custom application. Okay, I want to learn, I want them to press this button, or I want them to guide me to go somewhere, I want it to have overlay information on the car, overlay information on items. So which previously took a lot of time, and it's only going to work for one particular project, and that's about it. And if you want for something else, you got to pay more money and more developers come in. I think we've come to a point where we don't really need that anymore, and we can have actually an application that is able to do all of this very complex stuff, and you can easily do it, as I say, without any programming. Just put your model in, set up the instruction, and now with the AI, it might even guide you through the whole process. So I think that's pretty interesting, where you have solutions that's easily available, and you can kind of build it without, the need of months and months of time and effort. Yeah.
I agree with you. My final remark is very simple. I'm super happy to be in Istanbul, and I had more fun the last 4 days talking with so many smart people from 8 universities, our colleagues coming from far away. And when I moved to United States 26 years ago, I did it because I wanted to be in Silicon Valley, compete with the best. And nowadays, thanks to this gentleman, most of our development doesn't happen in Silicon Valley, but happens in Singapore. And what I think we had a discussion the last few days is with you guys to set up a big development center here and in other locations in the region, where I think the new trend is that we can create Silicon Valley everywhere. Because the knowledge is there, the technology is there. We need to adapt it to each culture. We need to adapt it to the way of thinking. So I'm very much, my final comment, I'm extremely happy to engage with you further. We have a big grant for Turkey that we like to work with you on that. And also, I hope we look forward to host you next time, who knows, in Egypt or in India, and make this really a global movement. We had 42 million users. My biggest hope and dream is that we can reach 1 billion users in the next 10 years, but that's not going to happen unless you guys lead this and you have an incentive to do so, i.e. make money. So I invite you to that party. Thank you.